Good evening, Garrett. I will give you a moment. Good evening. Good evening to you, Garrett. I'm going to guess you're probably taking your nap. If we be real quiet, everybody, maybe Garrett will just sleep through. He's probably had a long night last night. With Garrett, you never know. Although I don't know if he was on. I didn't wake up this morning and see if he was on. Yesterday he was. Well, good evening, everybody who all may be here. And I'm looking at a couple of things there. Hello, Miss Brenda. Let me close my door. Hang on a minute. Okay, I'm back. Just got a note from Carol. She may not be with us tonight. She has no power, or she didn't a little while ago. She said she might be able to come in for a little while on her phone. Brenda, are you awake? I don't see you saying anything either. Oh, you know what? I gotta fix something. There I go. Oh, you're sewing. Ah, okay. No wonder I didn't hear anything up there. Hey, Diana, welcome. Glad you could make it. Are you guys under a big snowstorm situation, or is that all down our way tonight? Not our way, but United States way. We don't have. In fact, it was 80. Was it 80 today, Brenda? It was 80 yesterday. I think it was supposed to be about 80 today, which is nuts. Yesterday, I think it was 70-ish. Hey, Pam, welcome in. Good to see you. And we've got a guest. Hi, Diana.
Hi.
I don't know if you were ready to be popped on or not, but I went ahead and did it. My goodness, what that looked like the sun got blanked out there or something.
You must be talking to Garrett.
Yeah. Well, he was in here, but he said, since I wasn't on when he thinks I should be on, then I should. He was going to go take a nap.
Hi, Pam.
Hey,
How are
Pam.
you this evening? So you guys aren't snowing, but it's cold, huh?
It's freezing.
Oh, Tim, I can't express to you how cold it was this morning, I tell you.
I can't even say what Mark told me about his country a while ago. Hey, Carol, I had to remind him that it was his choice to move out there, but he still didn't have anything nice to say about the weather. I think he's about over. They got another foot of snow last night, I think. He said he's really tired of having to drag a sled out to feed his horses and stuff. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, he can't get. I mean, the snow's over knee deep now, so he's having to cut trail every time he goes out to feed his critters.
No.
Yeah, Garrett was supposed to bring donuts tonight, but he hasn't mentioned whether he has them or not.
That's okay. I brought donuts tonight.
Hi, Carol.
Hey, Carol.
Carol has no power, she said.
What?
Well, she didn't, Carol. You guys still powerless? I don't know, not sure what she was trying to say there, but bring not bro. I think there's something missing there.
I'd rather have the egg roll pound.
She's still powerless. Oh, I think what she was trying to say, bring not bro. Okay, I got it. Bring not bro. You know, that Garrett was said he would bring, but I bet he doesn't. That's just my guess. So even if you have some, Mike, don't offer until he, fesses up. Carol wants an egg roll, but only if they're veggie egg rolls. So what's going on with your power, Carol? Is it like down lines or car accidents or what kind of thing you think's what's going on? Pam says it was veggie, which makes me believe it no longer exists within this plane. So it's dark here. What time does it get dark up there with you guys right now?
Starting to get dark now.
Just now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, it's been dark here longer than that then.
Days are getting longer.
Well, ours are too, but it's really dark out now. Brenda just mentioned that to me a day or two ago. I'm trying to think what time it was. When we lived in the Nashville area, we were on Central Time down there, and I used to hate winters down there because it would get dark. I'd go to work at dark, and I'd come home at dark or after dark, and it would start getting dark about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which just seemed wrong to me for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah, it's like that here in the middle of winter too.
Big ice storm, lots of down waters in the area. Oh, that stinks. I saw something about ice up that way, and I thought that's kind of interesting because I don't know. I don't think they get a lot of ice storms. We used to get them down this way, and now we don't seem to get that either. But maybe that's all part of global warming. Maybe it's the ice storms that move north. Yeah, I have broken branches on my car this morning.
Oh,
It's Key's birthday. Well, happy birthday to Key. Sawing and pulling down branches so I can drive.
Has your power been out all day, Carol?
Yeah, I think she said it's been out since like 5 a.m. this morning.
Oh, yuck.
I believe that's what she said. Pam said they just got heavy snow, maybe a light layer of ice on top of that. But her power's been on.
Well, when the snow's wet, the power lines don't last very long.
No, they don't. But when there's ice and you get an inch or so of ice on top of that, it really doesn't do any good. We had some really big ice storms when we still lived in Middle Tennessee, and I know it was amazing sometimes what the trees would take, but we had some in our yard that would just bow the limbs down to the ground, and then of course sometimes they did snap off, but it was nuts. Do you guys use well, they put on roads up your way, or do
About
they?
everything.
They've gone to using down here. They primarily use brine now.
Yep.
Yeah, we're using
Beet
beet
juice.
juice.
Beet juice.
Yeah, beet juice, and they had some pretty good success on the bridges where they're in the morning to knock down that frost line,
Yeah.
and ice melt and sand.
Yeah, well, some states use really fine gravel, and some use sand too. They used to just use crystalline salt down here, but now it's gone to pretty much just brine, and they can coat the roads the night before something happens, and our roads do stay pretty clear. I'll have to say it seems to work better than what they used to be. Tim, did you get your hair cut? Well, no, Carol. What makes you think that? Yes, my wife cut my hair just a little while ago. That was starting to drive me crazy. I thought about letting it grow out, but I can't. I don't think I'll ever make it to the ponytail stage because I just can't stand it that long. And yes, as Brenda pointed out a minute ago, our daffodils are in full bloom. So if we get snow now or frost or ice, they'll all be dead. They sure won't make it till Easter time, I don't think. They're about a month early for us, it seems. Oh, man. Checking.
It'll be another 2 months before we get any kind of flowers here, daffodils or tulips.
Carol thinks you might be another Garrett, Diana.
I was going to wear a mask, Pam.
Garrett, I'd have to, if he ever came on my show, I'd have to have him on as the Masked Singer or something, whatever that show is.
Yeah.
I wonder what Garrett would dress up as.
Well, that's a good question. I could think of a couple of things. I won't mention them in here. Though. I'll behave myself for the most part, anyway. Let's see. I'll give another few minutes before I start. You know, I tried to pull. Well, I'll talk about this in a minute. Dress as a dragon. Pam says I think he would dress as a dragon.
Or a biker pig.
Or a what? Oh, a biker pig. I don't know if he can do that or not. He might could pull that off. Oh, thank you for saying that, Carol. I'm glad somebody pointed that out.
Oh, thank you, Carol.
Which could explain a whole lot about why Garrett won't come on the camera. Hey, you want to come over here and say hi while you have a chance? Carol might not stay long. Come here. Oh, come here. I'm gonna say hi. Say hi to Carol and Mike and Diana.
Hi,
Okay.
Teddy.
They know who you are. Reckon what that is. What do you see, huh? See Mike moving. Diana's waving.
Can you see coconut?
No, you can't see coconut.
Can he see what?
Can you see our dog in between us?
Oh, I don't see one. No, I can't see it.
There,
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I do.
there's the nose.
There's a nose.
There's the nose.
He got down.
Coconut.
We were sitting here. I don't know if I told this story yet. I'm sitting in there with him. I'll be sitting on the couch with him, and something will catch his eye or his ear. I don't know. And he'll look over here by the door. I have a sliding glass door on this end of the room. And he'll be staring over here, and I'll assume it's a bug or something in the house. So one day, not too long ago, I was sitting here, and something got his attention, and I didn't see anything from. But then I saw it. It flew across the room 2 or 3 times. It was a bat.
Oh,
What?
A bat, yeah. The bat had gotten into. I think it was a big brown. It was a pretty good sized bat. That's probably our biggest bat in this area. I suspect it probably came from in the attic. I'm pretty sure we probably got bats in our belfry, if you will. And it was actually had been sleeping in the folds of have like a heavy blackout curtain on this thing.
Yes, it is coconut, Carol. Sorry.
And the bat was sleeping in between the folds of the curtains. And so I had to corral it and get it out the door. I really hated to put it out because sudden changes in temperature aren't good for them. So hopefully it got back upstairs and got in the attic or something. But that happened a few years ago, and I had to stuff something in. I found a hole by the chimney, and they'd come in through that. And but I don't know how this one got in the house. I've not found an entry point. And it's been hanging there for a while. I don't know.
Do you get a lot of the mosquitoes there in the summer?
not if he has bats.
Well, we get some. Probably not what you might call a lot. I don't know how bad they are in your part of Canada, but I know in some places
They're terrible.
Yeah, they're not that bad here, but Brenda would tell you differently. They eat her up. They don't bother me as much.
Yeah, that's like him.
Oh, they're like attracted to me.
Yeah, that's how they are with her. She can step out the back door and be out there 5 minutes and come back in with welts all over, so, different places. But they'll that's why I usually go out with her, or somebody like her, so they go to them instead of me. But
I need one of those bee suits on.
Yeah. A few years ago, we were sitting outside, and we had bought one of those mosquito nets to put over your patio umbrella.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting on one side of the table, and Mike was on the other, and I looked up, and all behind him, it was just covered with mosquitoes. They were trying to get in to get to him, and I had not one mosquito by me at all. So yeah, he needs a beekeeper suit.
I'm just a likable guy.
Well, you sure she's not spraying your back with sugar water or anything like that?
I wouldn't put it past her.
Well,
Well, you know what it is? It's CO2. They're drawn into CO2, so you're probably the bigger of the two, so they're drawn to you probably more than her, maybe.
Yeah.
What was I getting ready to say about that? Mark said they had them really bad last year, but he lives right by the wetlands there in the river, and
Oh, that must be lovely.
so they're bad up there. Funny story about a bat. My grandma's funeral, there was a bat that was dive-bombing in the casket. Everyone later made a joke about her being a vampire. Well, maybe she was wanting back in then, Pam. Maybe that was the deal. Before, she was out in the daylight. Brenda has a funny story about when our youngest got married the first time. They had bats in their cabin. Brenda was staying with the girls, and they had bats flying around in the middle of the night. Our oldest daughter woke her up. Oh, now Garrett's got a comment. There he is. He woke up. Our oldest woke up, I guess, in the middle of the night and started yelling at Brenda, "Mama, Mama, there's a bat in here. What are you going to do about it?" kind of thing. And Garrett's trying to have a nap and I hear this grizzly bear voice. Well, you can go back to sleep. I'll call Gabe and have him whack you over the head every time you doze off. Anyway, she used a broom, I think, and shuffled them out the door. It was summertime that time, though. They weren't cold. But I think she said they had 3 in there. They actually kept flying around and hitting the overhead fan. They were running into the fan blades. Apparently, they weren't picking those up in time to avoid them. Turn on a light, Mike. I can barely see you two. Maybe that's the whole point, Garrett. They don't want to be seen by you.
Garrett, I hope the reflection off my head bothers your eyes.
Oh, now he's going to bother to say hi. Oh, man. He called me last night.
Did he?
Well, no, wait a minute. Let me think about that a minute. He called me. Well, he calls me when he goes running, so whenever that was. And I swear I accused him of having a plastic garbage bag full of aluminum cans, shaking it. And he said the noise was horrendous, and he said it was the wind blowing, so I guess it was. But
oh, yeah.
I'm still not sure it wasn't his, he didn't have a noisemaker with him or something. Oh, the heater, their furnace is using up all the heat, the electricity, Garrett. Have some compassion there, bud. Not everybody can live in California. You guys run electric heat up your way, or oil, or gas, or?
No.
Both. We have gas.
That's what I kind of assumed that. I actually was wondering about Carol, because if they were down here, if the power went out down here for a few days and it was really cold, a lot of us would freeze, because just about everybody down here has electric, and not everybody, but just about everybody.
Well, if the power went out here too, our furnace wouldn't work because it takes 120 volt to run the blower on it, right? So,
well, that's a good point.
Next investment is going to be a standby generator on our house.
And you guys should watch the replay of Jeff. He was eating Canadian snacks today.
He was. What was he eating?
Yeah, what was he eating, Garrett? Oh, I love the maple candies they have there. You guys probably don't even meet them in Canada. They probably just sell them there.
Actually, they said because the temperature last year, the harvest for maple syrup for the taffy and candies, the flavor changed because the trees were producing earlier and longer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was on the news today.
Huh. That's it. I didn't know that was a thing.
And people were actually complaining about it.
Well, I guess if you're a maple connoisseur, you might notice that. As long as it was sweet, I probably wouldn't notice it. Just trying to make sure I'm caught up here. No, there were nothing he recognized. He just said there were Canadian snacks. Well, I don't know what that would be. Poutine, or I don't know. Do you guys have poutine, or is it
Yeah, we have poutine.
You do?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. See, that's not a thing down here.
Really?
Well, I think it probably is, but we call it something else.
Well, yeah.
They have a gas furnace, but it must need some electric something or another to make it start. It doesn't work in power outages. Oh, that's too bad, Carol. You guys are going to get cold then if it doesn't come back on soon. Maybe you already are cold. That's why I'd asked earlier about the gas. I didn't know if that was going to be up there. I wasn't sure what they had. It looked like fun flavors of chips and things. Oh, probably had ketchup. Don't you guys, aren't ketchup potato chips a thing up there?
Yeah, ketchup potato chips are delicious.
No.
She doesn't like them. I like them.
I wouldn't either, Diana. I don't blame you for that. I'm not a ketchup person much.
What?
Only one thing I like ketchup on is
everything.
meatloaf, and that's mixed with other things. So Oh, I know why I didn't get a notification. My son had his account signed on and I was signed off. Well, that probably did it. Oh, nose is itching. I didn't get a notification of this stream, Pam. YouTube is screwy.
I got both.
My mom and dad had an oil furnace, but an oil furnace, not gas. But I think it would burn, but it wouldn't circulate because you had to have a fan to, blow it around the house. But it was an old, what I'd call an old fashioned. It wasn't central heat. It was just, there was a big radiator. The furnace was mounted in the floor in the center of the house, and it just kind of radiated out from there.
Mm.
But it didn't have, there wasn't any duct work going with it. But when the power was out, it didn't work very well either. So they're able to cook, however, because they can light their stove manually. Well, that's good, Carol. At least, and I guess you got real cold enough, you could always use that to heat the house up a little bit. Turn the oven on and leave the door closed and just let it get warm. I know you're not supposed to heat your house with your oven, but when it gets bad, things happen. So, and I apologize because I can't remember your son's name.
Alexander.
It's okay.
You'll need there.
Alexander?
Yep.
Yeah.
So how long has he been in the cadets? Is that
2
what
years.
it's called?
2 years.
Is that similar to our ROTC, or do you know what that is?
I don't know what that is.
Well, we call that Reserve Officer Training Candidates, but it's high school kids. And then I guess, actually it goes on into college. And then I guess if you stay in it long enough, it might give you a shot to going somewhere else to have a chance to being an officer, or you're, going to officer candidate school. I'm not sure about that, but I've known a lot of people that were in it, and some guys I knew that were in it stayed in, kind of went on into the National Guard and that sort of thing. But I know Mark was in the Navy ROTC. That's what we had at our high school, and but he only did that. He did that because his dad was a Marine. So unfortunately, they didn't have Marines there, but he figured it close as he'd get. Although Marines and Navy people don't tend to get along all that great, as a rule.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same thing. Maybe a little bit similar, but like they do teach them like the military parade, how to march and all that other stuff. But so he's in Air Cadets, and so he's learning all about aviation and the weather. But they also do, like, he can get his private pilot license through them.
Oh, cool.
And then go on to get a commercial license if he wants. So
yeah, he did a project at school that was about flying lift and propulsion and all that kind of stuff. And that's all stuff that he learned through cadets.
Yeah.
Then he brought it to his science class, and he did a project on it. It was actually really good. We're real happy for him.
Yeah, but they also teach, like, I mean, he's learning marksmanship, but they do lots of sports. They have sports days, and he loves the biathlon. And so and they also do like effective leadership and effective speaking.
That sounds very similar then.
Yeah, so it's all like, a lot of it is military prep, right? Because they want these kids to join the military. I mean, Canadian military is lacking a lot, so it's a good way to kind of pull some of the kids that have interest in.
Yeah.
But
Francisco.
Hi, Francisco. But for I think any kid, it's just a fantastic program. Like, he looks so forward to going, and it keeps him really busy.
Yeah, he really enjoys it.
Brenda's talking about my mom and dad's house. That's very true, Pam. It was that much. It was $91 a month. I remember the day we moved in there, and they thought that was terrible. I mean, they didn't think it was terrible.
$91 a month.
Yeah, that's how much they paid a month house payment when my parents moved into the house they lived in, that I grew up in.
Wow.
Well, I moved in there when I was about 11, 12, maybe. And they were there until they finally moved out to move near some friends of theirs, and they shared a set of a duplex with their friends. But anyway, that was $91 a month. And I can remember when they got that loan and got the house, and my mom used to say, "Oh, we'll never get it paid off. You'll probably get to inherit that because we'll never get that paid off." And they just, I mean, you would have thought it was $1,000 a month, but
Well, in that time, it probably was, right?
well, it probably was. I mean, in all things considered, I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what it would have been actual dollars at that time compared to today, but they certainly thought it was quite a bit, or at least enough that they were, it was a big payment to them. Let's put it that way. But then again, at that same period in time, or shortly thereafter, at least, I had a part-time job where I made minimum wage, and I can remember when I got a 10-cent raise, and that put me up to $1.10 an hour. So I guess when you compare that to today, it was quite a bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm showing my age, but it's hard to believe that that's what I made back then.
But didn't the dollar seem to stretch further too?
Well, it did. I mean, looking
2
back
cents
on
for a coffee.
say what?
2 cents for a coffee.
You probably you could buy. I don't know if you guys ever had these, but we used to have. Well, I can remember I paid a dime for like Pepsi's or Mountain Dew or 10 or 12 ounce, a 10-ounce bottle of pop out of a machine, soda, whatever you want to call it, was 10 cents. Now, they didn't count deposit on the bottles because back then we had to turn in the bottles. But you could buy, we used to have 7-ounce Coca-Colas. That was a big thing where I grew up to get the little Cokes. They sold them in all the stores, which I guess was kind of a handy size just to grab and drink and keep going. But we could get those for like a nickel.
Wow.
And we could still buy penny candies, penny bubble gum, that sort of thing. So I guess it would go quite a ways.
I don't know. I look at what I was making, 20 years ago as compared to now, and it just seemed that you felt so much better off. I don't know.
Well, yeah. 20 years ago, what was I doing? Oh, I know where I was at 20 years ago. Yeah, but then again, I'm on fixed income now, so I guess that would be. So 20 years, wow, it's hard to believe. Brenda and I were just talking the other day. We've been here, here by Knoxville, Tennessee area for, I guess 28 years, and which doesn't seem possible because we lived in Nashville for about 15 years, and that seemed like forever back then. And now we've been here this long, and it just doesn't seem possible. So, how time flies when you're covered up with your other worries of the world.
It goes fast.
Garrett says they were getting Florida weather in winter, which was a bit alarming because of the drought. Well, that's what, and they're getting. I think it was in the 90s in South Florida today, and we had near 80. I don't know what it actually got to, but let me see if I can pull that up. I know it was supposed to get up around 80, which I could not believe. That's really wrong for us. It's 70 right now, according to this.
I wish. Oh, I wish.
Oh,
Sorry, I don't mean to make you feel bad.
Rub it in, why don't you?
Get some salt.
Well, some got to rub it in on somebody. Garrett just doesn't take it all that well. I figure you can handle it, Mike. Garrett just finds. Oh wow, car stuck for 6 hours on California's I-15. I don't know where that's at.
I got my car stuck on my parents' driveway this weekend.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that you guys. Well, no, I won't assume that. Let me ask a question first. You have a lot of 4-wheel drives up there. I mean, is that the most common thing, or do people not even bother?
No, you need a truck and 4x4. If you live outside the city, you need something like that. Little cars don't last that long on our roads.
So, what about something like a Subaru, a 4-wheel drive Subaru?
Yeah, inside the city, it's fine, But
okay.
if you're going down a gravel road and a little car like that pushing snow and it has been plowed.
Even inside the city, sometimes though, like we don't shut down ever. It really, really has to be incredibly bad.
Yeah, I've always heard
power outages and high winds and zero visibility for them to tell people to stay home. The city's open. We get dumped on. We get 3 feet of snow. The city's open. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, the crews are out. The crews are out clearing the streets.
Well, the first thing that happens here is the weather forecast will come on and predict possible accumulation or flurries, say on Thursday. By Tuesday evening, the stores are all out of bread and milk. So everybody runs to the store and buys bread and milk. Not sure why, but that's what they do. Now, when I was growing up, we had more. It seemed that we had much more snow. Now we did live right up in the mountains, but we had snow. But they didn't used to call things off as quickly as they do now. It just has to think about snowing down here now, and they close everything up. I mean, it's crazy. Kids will be out of school. Brenda and I missed a month of school when we were in high school. I think we were either juniors or seniors. But that was the first winter and the only winter I remember being that bad. And that was a really subarctic kind of blizzard situation that we got where it was below zero for weeks at a time. And we had a lot of snow and ice. And that was unusual. It's not common for here. So, okay, I'm going to stop babbling for a minute and I'm going to talk. If you saw my thumbnail tonight, you know what I kind of wanted to talk about. At least I want to bring it up, and we'll see how far that goes. And that's the situation we now find ourselves in, at least in this country, about banning books and even burning books in places, including our beloved home state right here in Tennessee, which doesn't surprise me much. I mean, we did hold the Scopus monkey trial here. So that goes back to the 1920s, I believe. Can't remember what year that was. But anyway, there was a preacher here not long ago. Let me go back to what I initially started to say. The largest book burning thing I can remember out of history was the Nazis. And they burned thousands and thousands of books. A lot of them had to do with anything that had to do with the Jewish faith, of course, because that was the beginning of the push to get rid of the Jews in Germany. But that wasn't all. Art. Hitler decided what was appropriate art and what wasn't. And pretty much anything that wasn't German, and they didn't like much. So anyway, they burned a lot of books. And the first big book burning they had, let's see, I wrote this down here somewhere. It was in 1933. I guess it didn't say what day it was. And he was the minister of propaganda for the Nazi regime. and they made an announcement and put out billboards, and I mean they really sold it up that there was going to be a huge book burning, and it was going to be in front of the. It's going to be in Berlin, of course, in front of the Opera House. Not sure why that was significant, but. And they were going to burn. They were going to burn thousands of books. It said, and I guess they did. A lot of people are familiar with the scenes from the Indiana Jones movie, The Last Crusade, where he goes to Berlin to try to find the old man's diary or whatever, and they're about to burn it, or it's about to get burned, and they save it, but there's a big book burning, and I always thought that was just an unbelievable atrocity personally, because I personally think books are sacred, and not just religious books. I think all books should be taken care of, but that's just me. But anyway, and then I got to looking that up some more, and I got to reading, and we had book burnings here last year, and probably had some this year right here in the state of Tennessee. And there's a preacher. I'm going to call him a country preacher, but I'm not sure about that part. But it was in a somewhat rural county down towards Nashville, and he sort of did the same thing. He announced some kind of big revival meeting outside, and they were going to have a big bonfire, and they were going to burn books. And in this case, it included things like the Harry Potter series. I just read that. Let me see. I've got a list of stuff here. Burning books in Tennessee. I don't know how many have heard of the book Maus, M-A-U-S. Twilight was amongst them.
Twilight, I heard.
Do what?
Twilight, I heard.
Yeah, Twilight, Harry Potter, Maus. Maus was a book about that. I remember reading about this one, actually. It was a book written by a Jewish author, and it was about the Holocaust. But it was an anthropomorphic kind of thing where it was the cats against the mice. And the Nazis were represented by the cats in his book, and mice were the Jews. But basically it was just a history of the Holocaust, but using those characters rather than just human beings. And they burned that book because they said that wasn't, fit for. And I don't know why you would think any book written by someone of Jewish heritage would not be an educational book for kids to learn about the Holocaust. I mean, of course, in this part of the country, people here are always saying the Holocaust never happened. So it's amazing how often we hear that down here. I mean, maybe not every day, but a bunch of the people that were at the January 6th marches or riots, insurrection, I choose to call it, but a bunch of those guys had on anti-Semitic shirts, and it's sad. But what got me really started on that part was the fact that there's a huge movement right now in different areas, but Florida is one of the largest, and they're banning books like crazy. I mean, they're emptying out whole bookshelves in libraries now, getting rid of just inside not worthy. And I couldn't find an actual list, but I know I've listened to some interviews.
Jeez.
You okay?
Yeah.
You're choking her, Mike.
Do you need mouth to mouth?
No.
Sneaky, Mike, sneaky. Don't ask next time, just dive in. You don't. She might
Not on YouTube, please.
You might not be able to speak. You just gotta, go for the rescue.
Thanks for the tip, Tim.
But I did read in like one county where Jacksonville was at, Duval County, they had banned at least 176 books already this year. And that could be anything from Huck Finn to
Dr. Seuss.
To Dr. I mean, yeah, it's amazing the stuff they're banning. there was a book, an award-winning book that came out, I think last year, about that a guy had written about he and his daughter. He had grown up as he was a single parent and was taking care of raising his daughter, and so he had written a book about he learned how to take care of her hair, and they were black family, and that's been banned. They pulled that. I guess that goes kind of along the right lines of critical race theory somehow, and they pulled that out of a lot of schools down there. Different counties have different numbers, but the way they did it is even more absurd. I mean, they basically went to all the schools and made them shut down their libraries, and if they had a personal library in their classrooms, teachers had to block that off. Students weren't allowed to look at them or pull them off a shelf. They taped them over until their librarian or research. They had a person in the school that was supposed to be the one to go through and decide whether or not they were fit to be read, I guess, or met the criteria, whatever that was. And most of these schools had one person to do that. So I can imagine that took most of the school year. Or at least the first half of this. And,
if not longer.
Yeah, if not longer. And, of course, most of the teachers seem pretty upset about it. And Garrett is saying something here. Oh, Carol did too. Let me back up a minute. Well, he's criticizing, wanting to know what kind of show I'm running here. So that's where all the American Nazis are, Tennessee. Garrett, don't say that too loud. You might be right. Then Carol said there are definitely some books that could be disturbing to young children, and I don't disagree with that. But there is a big difference between guiding kids to age-appropriate books and banning books across the board, yes.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I do agree. I think there are books that maybe are better suited for older kids. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
That's just common sense, you know.
Yeah, that's common sense.
You know, like.
And then Garrett said, I think that's the danger. How much do you censor and what is inappropriate for children? It's subjective. And then that's right, too, because that's where you have to be really careful. I mean, these guys were banning Harry Potter. And then on the other hand, you have, and I understand some of this, at least to a degree. You know, there's been a movement to ban books like Huck Finn, because of the language and some words used and things like that. And I get kind of where that's coming from, but I think that should be taught in schools also from a perspective. But I also think schools about critical race theory should be taught from a perspective.
Yeah.
You should get both sides, not just one or the other, or not either one. That's what bothers me, is you either get one side only or you get nothing at all. It seems to be our way of doing things.
That's right.
And I just think that's, for example, another example of that would be possibly the reason Disney has changed, or, Song of the South or Splash Mountain, that's been controversial too. And I'm not 100% sure why they did that. I don't know if it was just because of the books and race relations situation, or if that was just an update they wanted to make. I can see that either way. And I'm not totally against them changing it. I mean, I think the book, the Princess and the Frog book, is that right? I'm saying that right, aren't I?
Princess and the Frog. Yeah,
Princess and the Frog. I think that's a good book that probably warrants some use. And the fact of the matter is, most people these days have never read any of the Uncle Remus books, particularly by Joel Chandler Harris. And Garrett says, we used to sneak into X-rated movies when we were kids to get an education. Now there's PG-13. You're right, Garrett. I can remember doing the same thing. And movies back then that were rated R or M for mature weren't even. You can see that on TV now. It's not even that big of a deal anymore. But That's so yeah. The whole thing has been changed and deflected to different directions, but it really bothers me that we're going to that much trouble. I was this whole I mean this whole topic kind of started when I was wanting to write more, talk more about critical race theory in this country and why we seem so afraid of teaching about our. And we talked about this a little bit last week. Um, we don't want to be taught about history of the country if it doesn't shed a appropriate light on our ethics and morals from years gone by.
You know what, Tim?
Go ahead.
What better tool do we have than to use those books, like the Uncle Remus books or the Huck Finn books, to teach about race, right? It's, the book is entertaining and they're great stories. And so you read them, but then you have a discussion afterwards about it.
Yeah, and I think I look at it the same way, just the same as I look at it, that we should teach the other side too and do the same thing, because kids need to understand both sides. It sure wasn't all fun and games if you were an African American in this country. I mean, slavery was no joke.
No, for sure not.
Talk about what a great time these folks had, because we took care of them and they just had to work for us, and that's bullshit. Pardon me, but that's it's ridiculous, and that's why I think they should both be taught. I don't think you should throw out Huck Finn and also throw out some of the. I'm going to use the term critical race theories because I don't have a word in my mind that's but it should be equal, and we should teach both so we understand more about it. It's like I know we talked a little bit last week about the Indian the Indian missionary schools, and I was just started to watch a documentary a while ago about something very similar in this country, and how sometimes those kids would get scooped up in the night and taken to these boarding schools, and their parents didn't even know where they went.
Yeah.
And they would be stripped of their heritage, cut their hair, change their clothes. They weren't allowed to tell stories. They weren't allowed to play games.
Speak their own language.
Their language, they could not speak their own language. And we stole that from them. I mean, period. And be that in the name of the white race or the Catholic Church or the Baptist Church or the missionary, whoever it was. And that we should know about that. I mean, people should be taught that was wrong and this is how they did it. And that doesn't make it right.
And that led to lots of problems into society where we are today.
You know where to start if you want to have a discussion on race. You need to have more color in this community. You're right, Garrett. And how are we going to do that? I'm open for suggestions. Carol says she thinks books are such an amazing way to teach about true history, racism, etc., in a really child-friendly way. I absolutely agree. I don't think books play nearly the role that they once did. I don't think. I could be wrong. And I think there's so much more there. When I said I think books are sacred, I really meant that, because there was a time, at least, when the books of the world contained the history of the world, the good and the bad and the ugly. But because of that, there were teachings in them. If you want to talk about religion, then all religions had books. You could read about all of them if you chose to. And you could find out different things and kind of pick your way through stuff. You could learn about things, is the bottom line. And what else? Carol said something else here. We need to find books that have diverse main characters that are written by diverse authors. Okay. That's okay, Carol. I get that's you use caps when you feel the need. That's excellent. I don't have a problem with that. And that gets your point across, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And so then to start pulling these kind of books out of libraries and banning them from schools, to me, is just I don't think we can make it worse. I mean, how are you going to make it I think that you're pointing yourself down a path of destruction is what I think you're doing. Kids aren't going to grow up knowing either way, one way or the other, and they're going to be really confused about some of those things. Of course, it's not just about history. They're pulling anything off that has to do with transgender or that kind of sexual diversity, or so it's not always just about race and creed.
Well, they were talking about this week about Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. They want that book rewritten because of that and the language in it.
Yes, I heard that too. I did. Yeah, they're gonna, and that's also something they're doing down there. Is they're pulling out, or some people want to pull out books that use that kind of wording, which when their books were written was common. And
stupid.
I wonder is this kind of thing happening in Canada too? Do you guys?
Oh yeah, it does.
It does.
It does. Yeah. It does. We've had, I don't know how long. I think my son was just going into kindergarten or grade 1, and they pulled a bunch of books out. And I think it's stupid. I mean, I think the whole thing is stupid. I think, we tried really hard to teach, I don't know what's the right wording for this, but not to teach race or not to teach sex. It's a person. People are people. It doesn't matter. If you peel the outside off, we're all exactly the same on the inside. It has nothing to do with color. It has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with sexual orientation. People are people. And if we all treated each other like that, then maybe the world would be different, right? But when we were reading, we would sit and we would read books and we would talk about them, and if it was a book about, a white kid and a colored kid, it wasn't a book. It was a book about two kids.
Right.
I think it's a shame that we have to, the emphasis has to be so much on what it is today, right? Can we maybe use these things, use the book about the white kid and the colored kid who are best friends, and we tell the story, and then maybe we teach about what happened. Why was this colored kid on the cotton field with his parents, right? And then explain those things. And that, if you hear about the friendship, for me, if you hear about the friendship first, and you see these people as just people, when you hear the horrors about what actually happened to them, somehow it's worse. And I think our eyes are more open to that.
Yeah, I do too. I think I agree with that also. I was just reading this week, and I've tried to read books and try to learn stuff most of my life, and yet I still continue to find things that I never heard of. And I just finished up a book last week or week before, and I had never heard about this before. And I grew up, I know about the Trail of Tears. Of course, I didn't know a lot about the Trail of Tears until recent years when I've read up on it. But there was also something called the Black Trail of Tears, and I had never heard of this. But back when, in this country, when we started expanding west, came over the mountains and started settling new areas across the southeast and the Midwest, and it had a lot to do with the South because of labor issues. They would, I guess you had a couple of choices. If you could get to New Orleans, they brought in enslaved Africans to New Orleans and unloaded and sold or whatever. And then they got moved around to different plantations. But there was a whole part of the inland part of the South that didn't have that kind of port access. So what they did was they offloaded them in Virginia or even Boston and marched them, and they walked them from there all the way down to Natchez, Mississippi, for example.
Really?
Chained together in long lines, and You know, a lot of them didn't make it, and that's how they did it, and that's known in certain circles as the Black Trail of Tears because they literally walked them down. And this happened like every year in the spring. A certain time of the year they would start and end up because of the months and the seasons they had,
Of course.
you know, when they did this. And then they would also march them over the mountains and put them on flatboats and take them down the river. And I had never heard of that before, and I had never seen that written in textbooks. I've never, you know, I never thought about the flatboat era as being a vehicle to transport slaves down the river. But that literally was one of the things that happened. And I never knew about that until I just recently read that in the book. And I've been looking it up since then. And it was a huge deal. Millions and millions and millions, they think of, well, I don't know how many millions. I'm not sure how many enslaved people were ever brought to this country, but certainly a lot. And a lot of those were marched overland through the mountains and down through the south to, and I can't say all this without it actually making me flinch, but to markets and where they were sold off to plantations. And
Like,
it's just, again, when we don't teach that, we haven't taught that. And I feel like there's people that don't want it to be taught because they don't want it to shine a light on the shame of this country. And
you're afraid of the truth.
Well, we're afraid of the truth. And I really believe that. Let me see what I missed over here while I've been babbling. You guys please speak while people have different cultures. We're all different. We really aren't the same biologically, but philosophies and character are vastly different, and that's absolutely right. Customs are different. And Carol is agreeing. Oh, you agree? You wanted to go on record agreeing with Garrett? We can take that out later. Carol, think about that. And if you want that erased later, I'll take that out. People are both individuals and members of families, and families are members of members of cultures. Getting to know someone else to see their cultural differences as positive differences. Excuse me. And Garrett then said, there are some general things that can help smile at all people. There are some general things that can help smile at all people. Garrett, there's a word missing or something there. How will we know if you're smiling at me? Touche, Carol. Good one. And then Garrett went on to say, but some races are outgoing and some are reserved, so you have to adjust. It really takes getting to know different types of people and adjusting if you want to navigate successfully. And I agree. And Garrett and I have had this discussion before. I mean, I think it took African Americans, Black Americans in this country at least 100 years after they were supposedly set free for them to start getting their voice and standing up for themselves more and to be able to feel like they even had that much freedom or self-rule or authority. And I think we're still learning that about other races of people, like, well, Asians, for example, are often considered to be much more mild or mild-mannered to some degree, or more passive, I guess. Maybe, Garrett, I'd be more than happy to hear your take on that.
Yes, Garrett should come on.
My point is smile on the inside and give a scowl the most. Yes. Yeah, Garrett should come on and show his face. Garrett, we were trying to guess if you were the Masked Singer, what would you be? Somebody said a dragon, but I've got to be careful here. I'll get myself off in a ditch. But he's right. I mean, it's just like in this country. We've got this pretty much still, I think we're still prominently a white country. But even then, we're all different. I mean, people from this state are nowhere near like the people from California. And the people from Florida aren't even like the people from here. Well, most of the people in Florida aren't from Florida anyway, so maybe that doesn't count.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lady got attacked by an alligator this
Oh
week.
yeah, she got killed by an alligator.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I'll give you an example. I grew up around Caucasians most of my life when I spent time with some Japanese Americans. They didn't care for me because I acted more like a Caucasian in speech and mannerism. Well, that's a good example, Garrett, because that's I've actually heard white kids accused of the same thing in my part of the world when they grew up more around African American neighborhoods.
There's prejudice with every race and nationality.
I tell you, I didn't used to think that I lived in that part of the country, that kind of world. And let's see, I would have been 11 years old. And on that, this has stuck with me my whole life. Well, since I was 11. The day Martin Luther King was shot and killed in Memphis. I'll never forget, I went down to my best friend's house. He lived down the road a few houses. I'll never forget what his mother said that day. She made a comment about it was about time they shut his such and such mouth up. Uppity. I'm not even going to say it, but and that floored me. And I was 11, and even then I couldn't believe that she said that, because I remember thinking what a horrible thing that was and a terrible day. And I don't know if my parents told me that or not. I was a fairly perceptive kid at that age, but I know we weren't allowed to say the N word at our house. We'd get our ass beat.
Yep.
But at the same time, my parents grew up in that time period, and they grew up in the holler in the rural part of America where, let's face, blacks and whites were segregated. They really were. And so, I mean, I later on grew up to realize we all had certain prejudices, even if we didn't realize it. I mean, not necessarily intentionally, but just because of where we were from, how we were raised, the people we ran around with, all those kind of things. And I think my mom and dad had their own, even though they tried not to be racially motivated, I think sometimes they were, in their own way, they kind of were. I mean, they still looked at us as all different, even if they didn't make a big deal out of it or thought it was wrong to treat people otherwise. But let me see what else Garrett had to say. No, this is Pam. I'm sorry, Pam. I didn't mean to refer to you as Garrett. Please forgive. They think I should act and behave like them. And I'm taking there, you mean you're with the other Japanese Americans or Asians? Learning these things at school helped me learn empathy towards others. Removing our history leaves us not understanding it and being able to change it if we're brushing it under the rug. I think so too, Pam. I think when we learn these things when we're much older, I think there's more resistance to it. I think there, at least in some people, we're more apt to think that's made up and somehow isn't truth, or that's really not how it is, and because they've been told otherwise. So I agree there. I think that's a very good point.
The older you get, the more set in your ways you become.
Absolutely. And no matter how hard you try, some things are just ingrained. It is much harder to change certain attitudes and feelings when you've had them that long.
Yeah.
We're basically incapable of treating each other the same because we seek to do what we want to do. More and more we're about being individuals, unique and special. Well, yeah, we're being taught that more and more, which is probably a bad thing. I don't know how. I think we all have to grow up. I think we all need to learn how to take care of ourselves better and treat ourselves better in some cases. But I don't think we need to grow up
Alexander?
think that we're more important than anybody else or are the only ones that matter. We seek those we are comfortable with and feel people who behave different in our cup. Well, that's very true too, Garrett. I mean, and there's Dean, the turkey lecturer.
Hey, Dean.
Hi, Dean.
Yeah, well, Dean, I'm gonna pop in there after we shut down here in a little bit. We're not too far from doing. But I welcome everybody here to, or I don't welcome, I encourage you to go out and do a little research on some of these books they're banning and some of the book burnings that have happened. An interesting thing about the book burning they had here in Tennessee, or one of the bigger ones that I know about, was they had one guy there who was a counter protester, if you will, was not for burning books and doing all this crazy stuff, and he actually got up by the fire and kept and threw a book in and said that was the Holy Bible. And he felt like if everybody was going to burn his books, he might as well burn theirs too. Now, whether he did that or not is not, they're not sure it really was. So it may not have been, but he said that, and I'm pretty sure he probably got ran out of there on a rail just knowing the people that were there. But, that's, if they had the right to burn books that were important to him, I mean, I can see that. It's another book, and if he didn't agree with its teachings, then why not? Why is he not allowed to burn it if they're allowed to burn Harry Potter, for example? And I'm not encouraging anybody to burn a book, Bible or otherwise. I don't think we should burn books. I've never read Mein Kampf, and I don't know that I would want to, but I partially do because I'd like to know. Sometimes I'd like to know more. It went through Hitler's head to figure out where he was coming from. If it actually had that in it, I don't know if it did or not. He might have just made it all up, but I mean, he was selling a program, if you will. But let's see here. Carol has got something saying. Well, Garrett, we can be better than that. We can both advocate for ourselves and for others. We can assume positive intentions until we see otherwise. That's
right.
I agree with that too, Carol. And I also agree with something else you're saying here. I think we should, I don't even talk about this kind of thing. It almost gives me the willies, but talk about loving ourselves and thinking that we're worthy and that sort of thing, I think has gone too far in some ways. But I don't think that's wrong as long as we don't just assume we're better than everybody else is. I mean, we can all, you should take care of yourself, but not at the expense of everyone else, I don't think.
Hi, Elena.
Oh, Elena.
Hi, Elena.
The majority is very important of any demographic. I agree. Maybe we should all start our own book club. Well, that's not a bad idea, Pam. I'd like to throw some books. Yeah, that may not be such a bad idea. Maybe that would be one way to, spread the word around. Aloha, Mike Dan, and everyone. Great talk. Sorry, I'm at work still, and we'll probably get home after you've quit. So just saying, well, Elena, I'm glad you stopped by. Thank you very much, and I appreciate that. And one of these days, I'll get something going on where you can be in and and join the conversation. Okay, Garrett's threw in the word to advocate, but I don't know what he's talking about. I missed something. Hey, Tony, welcome in. I didn't see you pop in. Maybe you just did. Phantasmic Chronicles.
Hey, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
How's the puppy?
Oh, yeah, how's the puppy, Tony? Now, I saw something on, I'm going to change the subject so Garrett don't shoot me. I'm going to run a squirrel through the house. One of you guys asked Tony what kind of puppy he had, like European or American or something. What's the deal? I didn't know there was a difference in the breed.
So European Basset Hound those are the ones that you see that have lots and lots of extra skin. They're really low to the ground. They're big. Like they're really big.
And wrinkly.
And really, really wrinkly. And an American Basset Hound is a little bit taller, still wrinkly with the really long ears. They look very similar, just not as heavy and not with all that extra skin.
Huh. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So we have our male. Coconut is an American Basset Hound, and our female is American Euro Mix. So they look different, a
Huh.
little bit different.
I'll have to pay more attention to
And the thing, they got one thing in common: they both get stuck in snow.
Yeah.
Their legs are just this long.
That's right.
Mark's got that same problem. He's got that. Well, you may or may not know, but he's got that dachshund mix that's
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
border collie.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, he's starting to look like a black basset to me in some ways. I mean,
Oh, what's the dog's name again? Boudreaux.
Boudreaux.
Boudreaux. Yeah, Boudreaux.
Boudreaux.
His wife, that's his wife's dog. She named it after a bull rider. Boudreaux Campbell.
See, that'd be an awesome name for a bloodhound, Mike.
Yeah.
For who?
I want a bloodhound next.
Oh, he's got the same problem getting through the snow because his legs aren't very long either. And he tries to go outside and chase after the other dogs, which Mark has a border collie and a Bichou and a couple other dogs. And they're more on the hound side of things and longer legs. And Boudreaux has to work really hard to keep up. But
Yeah.
he
I
tries.
know.
And now they're both Canadian Basset Hounds. Pam said that's very true. Okay, I'm gonna back out of that for a minute. I don't want to. I could stay on that path. Let me see here. We got about 15 minutes, so I don't want to give up yet. And I'll probably continue this some more. That's why I said I invite Enio to pick up one of these books and about some other topic and read it, or pull up some of this information and see what books are actually being banned and well, I'll tell you another book that was being banned that some of you might know what I'm talking about. Some may not, but there was a young lady several years ago, or a child, that was one of the first children I remember seeing on TV, as in like 60 Minutes or something, who was transsexual and transgender. And her parents were going along with her, and her name's Jazz.
Oh yeah.
Jazzy. And now,
Yeah.
and she has written a book, and I've not read the book, but they're also pulling that one from the schools because they don't want that kind of transgender influence. And I mean, that's just.
Yeah, but what grade?
That's where we're afraid. I mean, that's where we're so homophobic about certain things in this country that somehow or another we're afraid that because someone else is transgender, if we're not careful, we'll read their book and then suddenly we'll become that too, or our children will become that, and it's not anything to do with it.
I agree, but I have a question. What grade is that? Like, what grades are they pulling that book from, or is it from all schools and all?
Well, I'm not sure how they've divided that up yet. That part I haven't seen, although I know that a lot of it I was seeing were elementary to middle school frame. But I got more of the impression that they're pulling them out of all schools. But I hope it's not high schools too. I don't know for sure. I need to work on finding out just what if they go through all the K through 12. Because I got that impression, but I'm not positive of that, so I shouldn't say that.
Because here's my thing, and I mean, maybe some of you are going to think ill of me because of this or whatever, but I also think that there's kind of an age where we don't need to discuss this stuff and we don't need to know this stuff. And again, it's because I'm going back to people are people, and it doesn't matter if they're black, white, whatever. If they're male or female or both or whatever, it doesn't matter. For kids, if you watch kids play, kids are kids. It doesn't matter what sexual orientation you are, what color you are. It doesn't matter to them. And so do we need to talk about this or read about this at those early ages in school? It's not a conversation that comes up, right? I'm an older mom with
I agree.
It's not a conversation that comes up, not unless it's heavily discussed. So do we need to have those? Do we need to have those books or that material there in the first place? I don't think it's necessary. I do think that it's necessary in the older ages where, the hormones are starting to develop and move around, and, people start to become who they are or who they're going to be. right? And so then I think that's important to have those tools there that you can read or you can learn about, that somebody else maybe is having this experience. But I don't think that these things are necessary in the early years.
I would probably agree with that. For one thing, I think kids, unless they're taught at an early age not to be this way, tend to be much more accepting of each other regardless
That's
than,
right.
than adults or older kids are. And they really don't have that kind of fundamental knowledge of what that means totally. I mean, they're just people to each other. They're kids to each other. And I don't think, Garrett says you don't have to force feed them. And
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that's true. And I was going to say something else. Oh, and another part of this that it's happening here in this state also, and this is already happening in some others, but this is going through the voting process here now. Is that they've passed a law or a series of laws or a bunch of things packed into one law, I guess, that forbids parents and doctors from doing any of the things that pre-puberty type things that kids, if they really are based on their psychological profiles and through other medical reasons or psychology reasons, once they've been really evaluated, they're not allowed to do that, to give them any kind of therapy or hormones or surgery or anything now until they're over 18 years of age, if they think they're transgender or if they, where they're headed. Hey, John, welcome in. Surf Bum's here.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
And I have really mixed feelings about that. I mean, I agree that you shouldn't push it on them when they're very young, and maybe not at all until they do reach puberty, and then maybe it is more of a choice. But I don't think the lawmakers in this state particularly have any reason or right to go out there trying to tell parents how to raise their kids in that regard. I mean, I think that's personal, and I think that's between them and their doctors and their psychiatrists or counselors. I don't think they should be forcing them to do it one way or the other.
No, they shouldn't be.
But that's what's going on here right now. Let's see here. I didn't read something. Pam said something. They're now taking classic Disney stories, making them real life stories, and making them racially diverse. For example, Beauty and the Beast 30th, and now Little Mermaid. Yes,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Some things really bother me. If the character was a certain minority, just keep it the same character. Don't change it to blend in. That's not the way the story went.
Well, that's a good point too. I think that's another case where if you look at the stories and see where they came from originally, such as Aladdin. If I'm not mistaken, I think Aladdin came out of the 101 Tales or whatever, 101 Nights.
Yeah.
And that would have been written about groups of people in the Middle East at that time. And I probably would tend to agree there's no need to change them out.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't disagree with you, Mike. I'm not sure where I come on, how I land on all of that. But no, I don't disagree with you. I think it's a good point. Hey, hey, Brian. Well, I meant to say hi, and I put you in there and then was listening.
Hey, Brian.
There.
How about Disney, who hasn't really released any super great new content, come up with some really great characters, that are colored or that are transgender or that are gay or, don't mess with the stuff you have. Be creative like you're supposed to be and come up with new stuff so that we can embrace that.
How much resistance do you think they'd get from that? And anyone else who wants to add?
I don't know.
What's going on here?
I'm sure there's going to be people that don't like it, but it's just the way it goes. You know, you can't keep everybody happy.
I don't know, Brian. I've not heard that, nor do I know what that means exactly. Oh, you're changing from man to them. Okay. You're saying they're changing the, I'm saying I happen to disagree with that too, but I don't, not because of who someone is. I just don't get the whole idea of messing with pronouns. You either are, or you're not, or you're one or the other. But I mean, I don't. But that's interesting if they are.
I'm just curious though, how does everybody else feel about that?
Pam's agreeing with you, and I think somebody was saying that earlier. I think, and I missed the conversation. I missed the idea, but I think that's a good point. You know, I think they ought at least give it a try. But it kind of goes back to me too, with like the Huck Finn's philosophy, or that's not how the book was written, and if you know much about, if you've ever read much about Samuel Clemens, while he was, I'm sure, a son of the South, so to speak, he's from Missouri.
Say hi, Ellie.
But he also, hey, Ellie. He's also, hi there. No, I'm not looking. I'm not looking. I'm not looking. I'm not looking. Is that the guy that's got that cat? I ain't looking. I ain't looking. To go back now, to come along 100 years, 150 years later, and think it's wrong, that the characters and the wording's right, so they're wrong, so you're going to go in and change all that. I don't think that should be necessary. For one thing, I think we need to learn from it, not hide it, pretend like it never happened.
Yeah,
absolutely. Learn from your mistakes.
But at the same time, we need to go in and tell the stuff that really did happen, and not hide from that either. That's my opinion. Okay, guys, what time is it? I know Garrett said we're only in halftime here, but I would go on for a long time, but I don't want to keep everybody in there all night. Plus, I know there are other things going on, including me losing my voice.
No.
Tony says he has to go get ready for work. Thanks for coming in, Tony. Appreciate you stopping by.
See you later, Tony.
What else? What else can I see here? I don't know how that works. So, anyway, for those of you who might be going to kick back out, Dean's going to be on, I think, at 9. So, I encourage you all to go say hi to Dean. Tim, man, just when I get into this, you have me all fired up. Well, I'm sorry, Garrett. You're welcome to write a big long missive and send it to me. And maybe next week I'll read it online. Yeah, I know. You're either going to win or lose. I mean, you either can't keep it going long enough, or I can't stop it. You know, it's. I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't, I think. Well, Garrett, come on at midnight, and I'll try to get on there, and we'll keep it going on your show. How about that? Your late night show. I'll even take a tablet to bed with me so I can not use my phone. Do I have to start a stream and do part 2 right when you sign off? No, you can wait till after a while and do it. I do too, Carol. That's why I think next week I'm going to do the same thing. Now, I am going to have, I want to continue the book discussion, which means I'm going to go learn more about the books that are being banned and what school levels. And I encourage anyone else that wants to continue it. And Carol, if you don't want to be on, or you don't want to say anything in particular, you're welcome to send me anything you have, and I will add it in. Honestly, I've been working on this for several days, and I just kept the tunnel kept going. I kept finding myself in deeper and deeper and finding more and more things. So it was kind of hard just to narrow it down. And I will bring you and Mike and Diana on. I will pay you all. Oh, would you?
Garrett, is that U.S. funds? Because if so, I'm in.
Probably California money.
Okay, it's worth more than the Canadian dollar right now.
Garrett, and we won't take pesos either.
Well, just a minute. That might
Carol, I
be
want
more than a dollar too.
part. I do. I know Carol's ready to bust. Garrett says,
Yeah.
"Oops, uh-oh, what did I do? I lost half my page." I get carried away, guys, and I forget to turn comments off. So if I've left something up too long, remind me. Anyway, Saturday morning I'll be on. I think I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about yet. Might be a squirrel hunt Saturday. I'm not sure yet what I've got in particular. I've got 2 or 3 things I want to talk about, but I'm not sure how I want to do it. And it won't be something like this. It'll be different.
Well, I'll be around this Saturday because my dad's out of the hospital. So.
Oh, well, that's good. And how is he? I meant to ask you about that. So thank you.
He's doing okay. He's still in quite a bit
later,
of pain and stuff. So
He's still what?
he's still in pain.
Oh,
So we thought he broke a hip or fractured a hip,
but he didn't.
No, I guess he pulled a groin muscle really bad, and it was like protruding out of his area there, out of his below his belly button there.
Yeah.
So, he's been doing things that he shouldn't be doing, like shoveling, pushing the snowblower around.
Well, if he tore a muscle, I've got groin muscle torn and glute muscles torn when I fell last year.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you something, I hurt constantly, so I understand that part.
So,
But I also don't find myself inclined to go out and shovel snow or anything. So that part he's on his own. You're going to have to teach him that.
well, it's quite funny actually. So I think he's just really bored. He doesn't have any hobbies. He's in his 80s. He enjoys doing that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to get him to stop.
How come you don't like doing that stuff?
Because I get paid to do it during the day, so I don't.
And I totally get that too. I've told people that before. I said, "Yeah, I get paid to do that. I don't want to do it on my time off."
Yeah, but now I walk out the door and fall on my rear end because he hasn't shoveled.
Well, Mike, that might be a problem. I can't defend you there, buddy.
Right?
I tried, but I can't. If I went against her now, I'd be wrong on so many levels.
Yeah.
Well, I hope he gets feeling better, and anybody else out there that's not
doing better.
ailing.
He's glad that he's at home. He wouldn't sit still.
Gary, I'm sorry, Mike. Hang on just 1 second. Gary, you guys going to be on tomorrow night? I assume you are. Okay, now what were you going to say, Mike?
Yeah.
You should go bowling.
I
You should go bowling.
Yeah, that won't work. No, bowling, no. It just took so long at the hospital. I just kind of got burnt out by waiting so long. They're so backed up, and he wouldn't sit still for his CT scans because he had like 4 of them. And the first time we were there, the first day, it took about 25 hours to get a CT scan.
Ooh.
That's how backlogged it was.
Yeah.
So,
You guys complain about your healthcare system? Our healthcare system right now sucks. It's falling apart.
No, I hate to hear that too, because I always wanted to brag about yours, and at least you got some. But yeah, they're making a cauliflower steak thing and cheesecake. Oh, cheesecake. I'm not sure about a cauliflower steak though.
cauliflower steak, it's breaded, I would think.
With cauliflower?
You probably would like it, Tim.
You would like it, Tim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pam, for coming in. I appreciate everybody being here. And I love each and every one of you for being here. And I thank you for your support. Mike, Diane, thank you. And the dogs for being on board. I know we're doing something right, or the dogs wouldn't show up. Well, not my guy who didn't want to be on TV. Hey. I was sitting there a while ago trying to eat a bite, and all of a sudden somebody come crawling over my shoulder. And he climbed down and found an arm to lay on and got real comfortable.
No, my dad, Carol, he wouldn't take up that kind of stuff.
Okay, let me see what else is being said here. So I encourage y'all to see. What time are you gonna be on tomorrow night, Garrett? Do you know? You guys change every week, so I never know when you're gonna be on. That's a dig, because he's always digging at me about what time I come on. But I'm on every Saturday morning at 10 a.m., Garrett. You could get up for that too.
Garrett, I'll call you Saturday and wake you up.
Thank you, Brenda. She got quiet, so I wasn't sure what she was doing, but she is sewing. So, you should put some. You need to make sure I've got pictures of your your apron. She made some really neat aprons for a lady who took some of her, I guess her deceased husband's shirts and cut them up into individuals and made aprons for grandkids and something they could remember Grandpa by. I think if I've got my story right. They turned out really good. I thought. I'm trying to brag on her. She don't let me brag on her much, but. Did you hear that? He wants to know what. Carol can't come on your channel, Garrett, until she comes on mine. I asked first. Now you and Diana have to work that out. I'm not gonna get involved in that negotiation. Oh, Diana says she wants to see the transfer first. Yeah, well, you never did come up with any pay. You didn't come up with an amount of money.
We want a pension in our contracts.
All right, guys, I'm going to start. Okay, once she, Gary, I really have to come in there as a topic that I can be useful for. Well, there you go, Garrett. Brenda says she's still sewing. All right, guys, I'm going to let you go. I encourage you to go over and see Dean and go in and see Garrett and Michelle. Oh, I actually don't see Garrett. Go in and see Michelle, Gabe, maybe Hannah, whoever's on tomorrow night, and hear Garrett in the background. We assume Garrett's there. Garrett may be a figment of all of our imaginations. That could just be Michelle pretending to be a Garrett. I think that's a good rumor to start. Oh, Carol, well, send me a list. I'll be glad to. Please, by all means. Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you all. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for having us, bud.
Hang on just 1 minute. I'm going to end the show and then don't go yet.
Oops.